Diana and Jon, thank you so much for joining me today. It's such an honor to be on the stage with both of you. I am with Influencer. As the name suggests, we are a global influencer marketing agency. And so I bring that up because I want to start with my smile is my superpower, Diana, and talk a little bit about some of the amazing campaign work that you have been doing.
Fan club.
At Colgate. Yeah, we got a fan club here for you. We see so many panels, we hear so many insightful things, but I'd love to really talk about a campaign that has really made an impact in the marketing community and subsequently the consumer community as well, and really talk about the humanization of what I think that campaign represents. So I'd love to hear about a little bit the inception and the impact that it's had.
Well, first, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it's not. So, panel 101, turn your microphone on. Okay? That's a good start. But I'm pretty sure this room is full of my people because I see you eating. A lot of you eat or you have eaten. And if you had, I'm sure right after that meal, you wet and brush your teeth with a little optic white or maybe some black total, yes? I'm seeing some head nods, yes, if not, you're going to go do that. And as a company, we're really focused on oral health and the science behind oral health. So yes, it's about brushing your teeth, but really oral health is the gateway drug to good health and ultimate overall health. Because there's a connection point to your oral health and your heart and all of these other great things. And so that's an easy space for us to work within, the health space. But as you start to shift over to the wellness space, that's where, a lot of folks would probably be like, well, where does toothpaste actually fit into that space? I'm a mom and I think about social and all the things that happen on social. And as we started to look at insights, we found that most of the pictures and images and shots that our kids are seeing that we are exposed to are actually perfectly veneered smiles. And I don't know about anybody else out here, but I have a gap in my teeth, and my teeth are not perfect to a U.S. aesthetic appeal. But in my family, a Caribbean family, where this gap symbolizes beauty, sexy, and creativity, I wear my gap with pride. And I want other people to actually feel that way too. And what we found in the insights is that a lot of our kids are getting bullied for their smile. And it's the number one reason why they're getting bullied. And as I think about the purpose for our brand, and it's about wellness and about health and all of those things, it's really important for us to be a part of creating that confidence and smile for kids. So the campaign, Your Smile is Your Superpower, our first execution of that really was about loving your gap. I don't know where they got that idea from. But for us, we really wanted to showcase smiles that were beautiful and healthy and strong and looked different and give people that confidence to smile and not to cover up. And what we found was that we were able to really create imagery that was not only inspiring, but also was based and leveraged music as a big power behind that. So there's a song, Roar. Some of you may have heard of it. It's about an artist that I'm not allowed to find, artist I'm not allowed to mention because we can get the rights to mentioning her name, but I'm sure you guys know it. And that song just evokes that power and that strength and that confidence. And we wanted to instill that with kids and with us. We also wanted to make the commitment that we were going to showcase smiles, real smiles like we all have. So not only you could see yourself in other places and know that it was okay to smile.
I love hearing that because, and also as a mother, social, and we all work across social, is such a powerful place, but can also be a scary place and a place where it's not always positive. But to see a campaign like this that's bringing out the best in who an individual is really amazing. And Jon, as an agency partner, I'd love to hear how you collaborate on something like this and what that looks like in the relationship between you as the agency and such an important player in the work, that Diana's doing and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think as an agency, you want brave clients. And what you talked about, the picture perfect U.S. smile, like as the agency, so many times you get brands who want to doctor things down and make them so perfect because there's sometimes a fear of being imperfect or the fear of offending somebody. We see it all the time across all our brands. And as the agency creatives, which we have some in the room, Fred's here, but with having client partners like Amy, like Diana, who not only don't want to be safe, they want to push it and say we're going to show real people in real situations. But as an agency partner, it's just like the perfect thing. You go back to the agency and talk about these things. You say thank you for having a partner who will push it and be real, not just in the look, not just the gap, but the conversations, the dialogue, the language, the vernacular, all that's. It's like the more real it can get, I mean, the better the work is. But to your question, at the agency side, you get more motivated to come back and do the next thing and the next thing, and then you get stronger with the work because you know you can be real about it. So I think the gap is just one element of it. But the gap represents the idea of just doing something that's not perfect, like what the world defines as perfect.
Yeah, and being authentically you, right? And that can be the best part about social is, and I think in a lot of ways, TikTok changed that game a little bit of like moving away from everything having to be so perfect that, if it's not, there's another one that does a little differently than that, and that you can just be yourself and create content that isn't high production value, that it is just you in your moment and enjoying, what your life is.
You're going to get kind of called out if you don't do that now, so you might as well just lean in and be real, because it's going to get real for you really fast if you don't.
Exactly.
What'd you say? Was there?
And so as we're talking about these cultural moments, you're obviously an iconic heritage brand. What goes into the expansion and the thought and the insight into reaching new audiences? May that be across either new products or a heritage product that you're trying to reach a younger generation with. What does that process look like for you, Diana?
We're a young 218-year-old company.
That's what I mean.
We invented toothpaste, but we're also the #1 brand on the planet.
Did you invent toothpaste?
Yes. It was called a bath perfume at the time, but we did. Yeah.
No, not delicious.
Yeah, I can take you down that road. But we're really grounded in science and efficacy, and you're not around for 218 years if you're not doing something right. And it's because our products actually work and deliver. I often joke with our scientists, is like, we can't just get patents, like we literally have to sell shit. That's how we get paid. But
it's a for-profit business.
But I think a lot of times legacy brands fall into the trap of thinking they have to be like the startups. The startups would love to have the brand awareness, the penetration as the #1 brand on the planet, not a low-key brand. They would love to have that. And I think for us, it's really about connecting with consumers and reminding them why they love our products, evolving with them, and also being a part of those cultural moments that make sense. We don't want to be the old dude in the club. It's making sure we're in the right spaces at the right time talking to consumers. We do that across our portfolio. So we have an awesome brand like Fabuloso. So Fabuloso is a brand that, we don't put a lot of spend behind. And, we had some challenges with the brand at one point, and some folks came in social and tried to say negative things about our brand. Before we can even respond, our fans, just like the woman from McDonald's spoke about, came in and were like, oh no, you're back up, you're not going to talk about Fabuloso like that. So if you can create those kind of connections, then you start to create this fandom that they spoke about as well too, and you really are a part of people's lives. I mean, for the brands that we have now, it's really about how we communicate with consumers and ensure that we're relevant to them. We over-index with the Hispanic consumer. In LATAM, toothpaste is known as Colgate. And for us, as we go across the globe, it's important for us to continue to remind consumers why they love our brand, but also make sure that we don't get complacent. If you think about a lot of brands that would have been around for a long time, and I talk to my team a lot, around that, Kodak and kind of what happened to that brand. Kodak is still a phenomenal company, but if you think about what they could have been and how long they could have been, how far they could have gone, it's because sometimes legacy brands can get complacent. Each day, our team is fighting for the right to be in your homes the next day, to be in that next moment the next day, and we have to stay on top of our game and just can't get complacent because we're the incumbent player.
It's you brought up so many interesting points in what you just said, but so it's really about innovation, to your point, not being afraid to try something new, but then also not trying too hard, right? Where you don't lose who your consistent customer has been while you're introducing, may it be new products or new audiences. Jon, how do you, as Diana's partner, navigate that as the agency and make sure that you aren't alienating while subsequently also building upon the innovation that is happening both in how consumers are consuming content on different platforms, and then also when it comes to different products or even heritage products like a Fabuloso. My whole house smells like Fabuloso, by the way.
A lot there, but the agency partner, it's a lot on us to because the brands are going to be bold. This is a heritage brand. Diana and the team, they know everything about that. It's our job to bring perspective to it and to make sure that, agencies have to do great creative work, great strategic work, but we also have to be on point for bringing perspective, what other brands are seeing. Because if you're an agency that doesn't do that, Colgate could just do this in-house. And if it could be in the bubble of, we need to have a perspective, not just on the platforms and how they're relevant, but how how Colgate competitors are doing, how other brands in the world are doing, and then to look at big macro trends that are happening and say, because sometimes a brand, not Diana, but a partner of ours could get kind of myopic about their own brand and miss the fact that there's a big trend happening that we may be on top of. And so it's on us to bring that and to make sure that we're putting the work in that perspective. I think,
great example of that, Jon, that your team brought to us is, we talked about Fabuloso and the connection to the Hispanic consumer. Fabuloso's been around for a long time. It's only been in the U.S. for 50 years. The campaign we have now really nods to that Hispanic heritage. So for any of you who are babysat by your grandparents and had to watch Days of Our Lives, or watch General Hospital and still remember Luke and Laura, then you know what it's like to watch a telenovela. That is an insight that is universal, regardless of if you're Hispanic or if you're U.S. based or if you're in any other market. And so our new campaign, which is Dramatically Clean, really leans on that and plays into the telenovela. And created characters and storylines and really brings not only the efficacy of the brand to life, but also entertains you and creates that emotional connection back to cultural heritage and moments that are relevant. So, the ability for the agency to truly understand the brand heritage, the brand architecture, the brand promise, and really connect that back to culture and moments that matter, that's where the magic really happens and why the partnership has to be so. It cannot be you versus us or the agency. It has to be a collaborative environment. And I know we talk a lot about that as we talk about agency partnerships, but what that means is we have to have a lot of healthy tension, competitive debates, and continue to push each other to be uncomfortable so we can get to that good work.
You said something, now we're on to Fabuloso a lot, but you said something interesting.
Can you tell my people my favorite brand?
I love it. What's interesting, I think, about the social landscape that we're in is you obviously want to have creators or brands such as yourself that you've built your community off your own backs, right? But so you're having this broad conversation with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, but the comments really represent a one-to-one relationship. And you spoke about the Fabuloso, users coming and saying, don't come for my brand. They really had a passion for that. Our CEO often says that your next campaign is in your comments, right? So talk to me about what that looks like and what the connection with the consumer really is when you're making decisions on behalf of your brands.
Yeah, I think, and especially for legacy brands, that becomes a challenge because, more money, more problems. So when you have bigger budgets, bigger brands, bigger exposure, that's a bigger target on your back. So when you're in a social environment and you're a 218-year-old company, legal gets a little uncomfortable when we start to play in an environment where you have to respond immediately. So I think for us, it's really about being proactively prepared and understanding and creating a very not so sexy process that allows us to be able to respond, but also protect our brands. Because it's not about, courage and being scared. If something goes wrong with us, we employ hundreds of thousands of people across the globe, and my primary responsibility is to deliver products that work, that push consumers and allow them to have great lives. But it's also, there's a huge responsibility to our employee base because we're obsessed with all people, including the people that work for us. So we take that privilege and we take that responsibility in kind, but it also allows us to be playful. So we do a lot of work to define what we call our brand playbook books, our brand growth plans, along with our brand architecture. So this enables us to be able to respond quickly. We have an awesome social team that really has a strategy in place. So it feels like it's just happening in the moment, and it feels like they're just reacting and they're so clever and they thought of it. But really, we've taken the time to map out a strategy for social, but with the flexibility that allows us to be a part of culture in a cool and interesting way. Because if you're too rigid in what your execution and what you're doing, it's really hard for you to be able to, be a part of culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And to pivot on what you were just saying, we're obviously at a Women in Leadership breakfast, and you talked a little bit about the important role that you have to play and in not only in the work that's going out into the marketplace, but then subsequently you as a leader within your organization. And it's not just a powerful place to be, but it comes with a lot of responsibility. And so, Jon, I'd love to switch to you as the CEO of a company and who I'm sure employs many women. What type of responsibility comes with that, and building women, within your organization, and any advice that you might have for other men in the audience?
Yeah.
In being an ally and supporting women.
Yeah, I see a lot of women I work with out here right now, which is great.
Call them out, ladies.
Yeah, lots of them. It's great. No, and I see a lot of women who've been at VML for a long time and have evolved in their careers, and it's kind of a strange thing because at VML, I've been there 28 years, and a lot of my closest partners that I've been working with for 25, 26, 27, 20 years are women. I don't
think about it.
No, I don't mean this to sound weird, but it's. I remember a couple of years ago, somebody said, wait, there's a big protocol for having dinner as the boss with a woman or a woman, and to be one-on-one, and I was like, oh shit, I'm having a problem because I have dinner with, we travel together. It's just how we dialogue. We never think of it any other way. Lucky like that kind of came up that way with just a really good balanced team. You asked about the responsibility. I think the responsibility is to just have a lot of dialogue about it and not to assume, if you're a man, not to assume, can I go back and forth? Do you want to be celebrated more as a woman or as a leader that's a woman, and making sure that you have a good feeling for that for each person, because some people, it's different for every person. So I've just always taken a lot of time with every person I work with. Actually, not just women, but to talk about how they want to be celebrated, talked about, evolve, and not to overly. My tendency is not to overplay it because it's very natural because we all work together a lot. But I also don't want to take that for granted because we've worked together a long time. I don't want to take any of you for granted that we've had that dialogue. So I think about it a lot, but I also don't try to get too unnatural with it.
I'm going to jump in. So I had this conversation with Jon quite a bit. Let me make him a little uncomfortable. We've had these debates.
Perfect.
We talked about that situation. Well, we talked about other things. And what I love about the approach that Jon took, which is what I think most men need to do, because we do a lot of these things. There's women lunches, there's all these women events, there's all these things that are happening here. But the thing that Jon did was he asked the question in terms of vulnerability. Like, I use that joke a lot about the old dude in the club, and I don't want to be the old dude in the club. What do I do to prevent that? And, he was serious. And I think, I pivot that to, as a mother of a son, my primary role in shifting the dynamic of, how we operate in this society is to raise better sons. We spend a lot of time over-coaching, over-mentoring women and talking about a problem that they need to solve that they did not create. And a lot would go into if we could just get the men to show up differently and speak up more. And that would go a long way to shift things. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of men that I've worked with along the way that have done that in awesome ways and been intentional about it. Because allyship, it is not just a title, it's an active verb. If you are not actively doing something about it, if you're taking a passive approach, then you might as well just be a part of the problem. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really shift the conversation from what women need to do to what the men in these different environments that we are in are doing to adjust the systems that were designed for them and to make them, make not fair, but to make them work for all. And I think it's also important for us to start talking about topics that are taboo. I turned 40 this year, and I'm
Happy birthday.
Actively, thank you. I'm starting to actively talk about menopause in a way in open settings. And when you do that, not only do women cringe, but men cringe as well too. And they'll be like, oh, TMI. No, this is a work health issue. Women's issues are work issues. A period pain feels just as bad as a heart attack. But yet we still go to work every day and work through it and suffer through it and then maybe forget and get Advil at some point in time. If you are a manager of people, whether you have female body parts or not, you have to make sure that you understand the team that you manage and that you're able to support them in a way that's important. And when we start talking about these taboo topics, surprise, surprise, the work actually gets better. Because your teams don't feel like there's things they can't say. If a problem is happening, they come to you sooner. If they have a challenge, they don't go look for another job, they come to you first. So it's not really a women's issue. And we learned this in the civil rights movement. When the civil rights movement happened, changes that were pushed forward to elevate the Black community actually supported white women and elevated white women first and most. And when we start to make these shifts, it's similar to the curb effect. You know, if we make the curbs that were put in streets for disabled people so they could get through and move throughout the world more freely, actually made it a lot easier for us with carriages, for us with packages, for all of us to move through the world. So when we start to make these shifts, we think we're doing it for a small group, but actually we're impacting a better existence for all of us.
Can I add? You're going to ask a question, but just on your back to your point about. Sorry to build on that, but you mentioned about active allyship, and thank you for the nice words about that, because I think that when you, as a man, I don't really speak for all men. I'm not speaking for just for myself, but for mankind, no. But everything changes so fast that the temperature of the room and then the women that you work with. A situation that was different 2 years ago, they walk into and you could see that it affected them somehow, and you have to constantly kind of ask yourself or ask the woman you work with, how did that affect you? Because you can see that it affected. I'd be people out here that I work with. You walk into a room as a man, even if you don't just become an ally and then you're an ally forever, you have to keep thinking about it. And you walk into a room, you see that it affects the woman you're working with. You could ask, and the how it affected them is totally different than 2 years ago. But as a man, you can kind of miss at that room. There was a lot of tones in there that I didn't see. But you can see it on their face, and to ask about it and say, what was that? And it's just constant. As men, you miss it because there's so many negative things that happen or ways that it impacts women that you get kind of blinded by. You have to keep asking about and stay active with it.
It is such a responsibility, I find, as a leader, because it's really about self-awareness, right? Men, women, otherwise. It's about like being aware of how what potentially you're saying is being perceived. And it's raining in Kent.
First drop.
2 years ago it rained really bad too. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
This will be funny to watch, all of us covered, to watch the whole scramble out here.
Maybe more people will join us for the umbrellas that we have, the beautiful umbrellas we have here. But it's really about that self-awareness, right? That's what I heard in the dialogue that the two of you just had, is that's what it was really about. And when you show up for your one-on-ones or you're in those group meetings, it's like, it can be exhausting on a weekly basis but you have to have that dialogue consistently. And I think that's how you ultimately remain a heritage brand. You stay at a company and become the CEO after, 28 years, is because you're having sometimes those hard conversations, both for yourself and for your employee. Okay. I think we're running low on time, so I want to switch really quick. Diana said something really fun when we were prepping just before here of like, if you're complaining in the south of France, like you got bigger problems, right? So we are all Cannes veterans here on stage. Tell me, coming here, besides for being on stage right now with Jon and I, what you were most excited about or what you really wanted to hear or potentially learn about attending Cannes this year. And the great shopping that we talked about.
Yeah, the shopping is important too. But I'm a brand geek, so just being here is exciting to me. But what is not lost on me is the privilege. I am a Black woman in a role that doesn't have a lot of Black women in it. And as I'm going to a lot of these events, there are a lot of college kids here. So I think for me, and this is a selfish one, just being here, showing up, being on stages, and operating in an authentic way and showing up as myself, I think is part of my value proposition, but also, allows other people to see that, it's okay to have pink nails, to not have a master's degree and still run a marketing department. It's okay.
Praise.
It's okay to, curse on stage or call things out, and that you can still go into different rooms and meetings. And giving other people that sense of belonging is really important to me. I think there's crucial topics that, require us as an industry to take more responsibility and accountability. Like AI, it's not just about the shiny robots, but really are we thinking about the impact that AI is going to have, like the internet did? It not being in the hands of the few, but really allowing all of us to shape it, especially for those people of color and the creators, and what that impact will have on our community and society. So I think there's some big, hairy topics that as an industry we have to stop being passenger princesses and really start to take a leadership role and drive the conversation and the narrative.
I agree. This morning I came early because I just wanted to listen and learn. And there's so many panels. And I think it's at an ad week, which I read, United did a great job, by the way, putting ad weeks on everybody's seats on the way over. But that it is can be overprogrammed, right?
Yeah.
But it was nice just to sit and listen and learn. And so, Jon, I'd love to hear from you before we have to wrap, what you've been most excited for this year.
Yeah. Speaking of overbooked, I missed a little bit of Monday because my flights all got messed up. Had to cancel 3 different things. And one thing you learn, we were talking about this, my friend Charlie and I, that when you have to cancel, I was like, oh my God, my morning, we're going to miss 3 different things. This podcast, this thing, and then nobody cares because everybody will take an hour back. If somebody takes an hour off your schedule tomorrow, are you going to complain? No, you're like, oh no.
Maybe go sit at the beach for a minute if it's not raining.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but no, but you know how it is overbooked a little bit. But I'm on a big mission this year just to personally learn about it and also advocate for more humor and having a sense of the bravery of sense of humor, not because it's the perfect remedy for any brand. Fabuloso is funny. I mean, that is like, it's like a 213-year-old brand not taking itself too seriously. All week I'm on just the hunt for that, humor, not just for humor's sake, but for humor for really moving the brand forward. We've gone through some tough years of the pandemic and just everything, politics, and it's like it's okay to laugh again.
Yeah.
Cannes added 13 categories this year that have to do with humor alone. It's like good because we can keep laughing.
And so much creator work this year too, and Cannes, the Lions are really supporting that work as well, which I love to see.
Yeah.
So it's really about inspiration, right? That's why we're all here. So, well, I hope that you found this discussion inspirational and informative. I want to thank Diana and Jon again for joining me on stage. Hopefully I'll see all of you around this week, and cheers. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.